important, which is how to find the perfect financial advisor for you. And we're literally talking to somebody that wrote the book on the topic because you got to know this. Look, as entrepreneurs, you can make all the money that you want to make, but if you're not managing that money properly, then you're going to have serious problems getting to retirement, which is why a lot of us do what we do, right? We want to retire earlier than people working a normal job, but you can only do that if you're managing your money properly. And I find a lot of entrepreneurs, that's not the best thing. It's not our best skill set. You got to find the right advisor. But how do you do that? Well, with us today to join in on that discussion is Drew Richey. Now, he's actually the director and financial advisor with Perry Richey Group. Drew, in his wealth management team, is based in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and serves clients across the nation. Now, over the last 2 decades, they have strategically built a diverse, multi-generational team of professionals with varied specializations designed to deliver a core value wealth management experience. Now, above all else, they believe in wisdom, discipline, humility, and transparency in the wealth management process. Now, they have helped hundreds of clients through a wide range of life transitions, and their mission is to shed light on the biggest challenges that people face when hiring a financial advisor. Drew, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us. That's quite the introduction, Ty.
Yeah, I love it. Well, you're doing great things. So, if you don't mind, do you have your book around where you can actually show your book? Like
I
literally, as I
do. I
said,
do.
you
Yes.
wrote the book on the topic on the book on this topic.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Finding your financial advisor, how to understand the industry and confidently hire the best. A topic that, there's some articles and blog posts and things like that out there, but not anything that's very comprehensive. And we felt passionate about putting something out in the marketplace to help people with that.
I love it. And the thing about financial advisor that I hear a lot of is people just need to understand the importance. So let's start there. What is the importance of somebody working with a financial advisor?
That's a good question and a great place to start. I'll say this. It'll be a little bit therapeutic, but within our advisor team, we have 6 advisors here. So we feel very passionate about having diversity in our advisor team, both gender diversity and generational diversity, just a lot of different perspectives in what we bring to the wealth management process. I would say that being a financial advisor, I still need some help with my own finances, right? There's an emotional aspect that comes with managing money, the financial decisions you make. And oftentimes I go to one of our other advisors on the team, my partner, Sean, Josh or Andrew, and I'll say, hey, I need to talk to a financial advisor right now. Do you have a minute? Because someone else can give you a different perspective on things that is not as emotionally tied to that decision as you are. Yeah. So as rational or I guess left brain, you would say, as a lot of finance people are, a lot of entrepreneurs are. I know a ton of entrepreneurs. I'm involved in a coaching program at Strategic Coach, and I know that means that hey, we all get distracted easily. We're 1,000 different directions and have a million conversations a week. And sometimes having a partner that you can trust, that can detach from your emotional situation and provide good, sound, clear counsel may mean the difference in long-term success or not, I would say.
So when do you think people should start looking for a financial advisor, and when typically do they actually start looking?
That's another great question. So typically people put off the decision of looking to hire a financial advisor until they're in some sort of major life transition. That's typically, a retirement, death of a spouse or close family member. They move, change jobs, start a business, sell a bit. And now there's already some anxiety and stress around what's happening in their life. They realize they need help. They're immediately kind of in the throes of that. And typically don't take the appropriate amount of time to go through the hiring process. We think that you should be diligent and deliberate about what you're looking for, decide what you're looking for before you actually start the search, and then take your time with interviewing people and talking to people, because it's so important to find the right partner. So people usually don't start the process until there's an immediate need that's come up, then they rush the decision. People should look for an advisor before they need one. Yeah. So that's easier said than done. Procrastination is a real thing in all of our lives, and we usually do things just in time. But yeah, before you're really in the throes of needing one is when you should try to seek out that partner, so that they're going to be there when you do need them.
In Tampa Bay, where I live, there's a lot of financial advisors around, and for somebody that's a novice doesn't know a lot about financial advisors. I mean, I have a podcast, right? I get an opportunity to talk to some brilliant people like you around the country that do what you do, but I'm still confused. Like, how do I figure out the right person for me? So when somebody's beginning that search of finding a financial advisor, what should be things they're really keeping an eye out for? What should they be looking for to find the right fit for an advisor for their needs?
Yeah, it's a challenge because within our industry, there are many different pathways to garnering a career as a financial advisor, and there are as many different types of financial advisors as there are clients. I would go so far as to say even within the same firm. So our firm is Baird Private Wealth, based in Milwaukee. Now I'm in Bowling Green, Kentucky, where our team is based. But even within one firm, there are many different options of what a financial advisor may offer. So there's a lot of advisors within firms have autonomy as to how they run their business. Part of the challenge is that there's also not a standardized career path to becoming a financial advisor, like it may be with becoming a doctor or a CPA or an attorney, where if you're working with an attorney, they've been to law school somewhere, they've passed the bar exam, they have these credentials that make them a financial advisor, or I'm sorry, that make them an attorney. But with a financial advisor, they may have something as small as, their own tax preparation office and their business card where they call themselves a financial advisor. If they're not licensed or regulated, they may sell one product and work out of their home and be a financial advisor. So advisors range everywhere from, insurance professionals to tax preparers to comprehensive wealth management teams of all different shapes, sizes, age ranges, and service offerings. So Ty, getting a little long-winded on the answer to the question, but in our book, what we say that people should start with is, the kind of the old adage is, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. We suggest that people set up their own minimum standards, and we let out in the book.
So give me an idea what that means. Like, what do you mean by minimum standards that one should set?
Yeah. So we categorize the minimum standards 5 ways. First off, education, background check, practice profile, services offered, and cost. And we can go into those as much as we want, but in the book, we lay out each of those 5 minimum standards and what you may or may not be looking for as far as each of those go. For instance, running a background check on an advisor takes about 2 minutes. Most will have links to FINRA or SEC background checks on them directly on their website. And that's not something that the general public is aware that they have access to. So yeah, in about 2 minutes, you could get a review of my employment history, my disciplinary record, if there was any. I probably wouldn't be suggesting that if there was anything too interesting to read there, the licensing that I have. And you can get that information on any licensed regulated advisor that's out there. Education. That's a great topic because our industry is full of we say people have the alphabet written after their name. There's all of these different designations. Some you can get in a long weekend with just a few hours of study on the computer. Some take years. So in the book, we lay out some of the most prominent designations in our industry so that people can know that when they see it, look for what might be applicable to their situation, and kind of cut through the noise of the differences in quality standards of each of those. So that's a few examples of the minimum standards.
So if I'm doing a background check, what are red flags I should be looking for in that background check?
Sure. There's a lot more that could potentially be there than just if there was anything a customer complaint or a disciplinary action, that type of thing. Sometimes you may just simply see that the person that you're talking to or considering interviewing's worked at 5 different firms in the last 10 years. So there may very well be reasonable explanations for that. However, it may be that may be a red flag, and that's probably something you want to dig a little deeper into in the interview. So that's probably one of the most common things that you're going to pick up from running a background check that's not an obvious red flag. Now, if there are customer complaints or there's kind of probationary actions taken, then there's plenty of people with clean records out there, and I'm not saying that anyone that doesn't have one's not worth a look at all, but
Makes sense. Makes sense.
probably worth a second.
And that's what I appreciate. I appreciate you saying, look, here's the obvious stuff you're going to say. And there's stuff that's not as obvious that you want to keep an eye out for. And I like that you address the letters behind the names too, right? Because we don't know what that means. But it's interesting because you said some could be done through a long weekend, some are years. So in your experience, what are the designations or what are kind of the awards or however you want to classify them that show the most qualified financial?
Sure. Yeah. Again, we lay these all out in the book and provide a pre-meeting checklist that kind of lists all of this out, which we can talk about where to access those things a little later. But the top 3, in our opinion, that are most prominent, we know that they are rigorous curriculums, years, they take years to accomplish, include things like bachelor's degrees and multi-years of experience, even if you do pass the exams, multi-day exams in some instances, are the Certified Financial Planner designation, or CFP. There's the Certified Private Wealth Advisor designation and the Certified Investment Management Analyst designation. So the CIMA, CPWA, and the CFP. Those are the most applicable to working with retail individuals. There are other very prominent designations out there, some more applicable for institutional type work and research analysts, but we feel like those are the 3 most prominent designations. And I would suggest looking for a team that has all 3 of those ideally, but multiples at a minimum. Something else I wanted to touch on that we believe should be a minimum standard, and we lay out again options for people to make their own decisions, but kind of the team versus a solo practitioner approach. There's not a lot of argument as to why it's better to work with one solo practitioner as opposed to a team. But when you get down to teams, I would say not all teams are created equal. Most advisors, let me start back just a little bit. 20 years ago in the industry, having a wealth management team was fairly uncommon. If you found a team approach to wealth management or financial advising, it's fairly unique. In today's environment, it's much more common. In fact, a lot of the teams that are out there may be advisors that are simply sharing resources and office coverage when they're, on vacation or out on a Friday or whatever, kind of the, you talk to my clients while I'm away and I'll talk to your clients while you're away. In the book, we describe that as the difference in a golf team that, all play separately and total their scores up at the end of the day versus a basketball team where a basketball team, plays together for one centralized purpose, and it takes everybody playing their own position to really accomplish the goal. That's the kind of client-centric team, is what we refer to it in the book, that we feel like we know is out there, what a lot of people are looking for. And if you're not careful, you may get a team that looks a little more like a golf team than a basketball team.
What are I love how you guys lay this out so well in the book, right? I mean, here's the 5 things to look for. Here's the designations, and I don't know if I'm calling the right thing, the certifications that people have. Here's how to
designations.
Designations. Okay, perfect. That that fit your needs and that work within the cost structure you have. But what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people make as they're out there trying to find the right advisor, and they mess it up and they end up in a worse situation than if they even had the advisor to begin with?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, again, Ty, oftentimes people rush the decision, and they end up going in a direction. There are a lot of in all industries, right? I want to respect the industry that I'm in, and I think that I feel like being a financial advisor and helping the families that we get to work with and the businesses that we get to partner with and help is, for me, a more than a career, right? It's a calling and a passion that we have. But it's an industry that is difficult to understand. Education through normal metrics like high school and college for people that don't have, business degrees, it's something that intimidates people. And in that circumstance, we see people that are taken advantage of. Oftentimes they're sold products that they don't need, with long deferral periods, sales charges, that type of thing, because some of those products are very easy to sell with guarantees and insurance and that type of thing. And so I would say most often than not, one of the biggest mistakes we see is people that have made bad decisions based on bad information because they didn't take the time to, we start the book with a chapter called Taking Ownership. Ultimately, you have to take ownership for the decisions that you make, who you decide to hire and trust. And maybe you were taken advantage of by someone you hired, but you chose to hire them, and you have to take ownership for those decisions that you make. Now, our society, that's not probably the most popular thing to say. Where a lot of people are looking for somebody to help them, but yeah, it's a real thing, and a lot of people come to us sometimes when it's too late.
Yeah, and it makes sense. And listen, I mean, think that entrepreneurs seem to be a little bit more accountable than I find on the consumer side. Yeah, but
Absolutely.
that's just what I find. And along that line, what if somebody is listening to this, they read the book, or they see this online, and they're like, man, I don't know. I'm with an advisor now, and he says a lot of things that make sense. Like, what's a catalyst that should get somebody to start thinking about potentially changing if they're not necessarily happy with the advisor they're with?
So we feel like that an advisor should have what we refer to as a core value approach to wealth management. In those core values, our team has identified 4 that we feel like you can you could categorize everything that an advisor should do into those, being wisdom, discipline, humility, and transparency. I would say one of the main things is discipline in their wealth management process, discipline in their investment process. And in the book, we say, hey, you don't have to understand exactly what that investment process should look like, or that wealth management process, but they should be able to articulate it to you easy. So one of the red flags, we think that, just like, Ty, when you reach a certain age and you go visit your doctor and he says, Ty, now that you're 40, or now that you're 50, or here's the test that we need to run, here's what we need to go through for you, because this is what we do for everyone at this spot. We refer to that as a standard of care, that we identify the things that we need to be addressing with all clients at the right time, at the right ages. And we use a checklist protocol and review that at our meetings with the clients. So if your advisor, if you're bringing things up to your advisor that they haven't already identified, or things that they can help you with, then it's likely that they're not the right person to help you with that.
What about preparing for the first interview? You mentioned earlier that you almost have like a pre-interview checklist per se. So what should people know before going into interview? What kind of things do they want to have, information they want to have, documents they want to have before they go into that interview?
Yeah. So when they go into the interview, first off, the industry wouldn't tell you necessarily that the first meeting with an advisor is an interview, but we believe that it is. It's an interview to see if they're going to be a good fit for you. It's an interview to see if you're going to be a good fit for them as well, because hopefully they have a disciplined approach and they're not necessarily accepting every client that walks in the door. We believe that before you set your meetings, they should meet what you determine to be your 5 minimum standards in each of those categories. So if someone doesn't meet those, then find people that do. There's a lot out there that's going to meet what you lay out to be your minimum standards, and it's going to save you a lot of time. And then go into that interview. We know that people feel like they should bring their statements, or they should bring their net worth information, or they should bring, kind of have all of this stack of papers that they're going to go over. But we say you only need your list of questions that you're going to ask them to see if they're going to be the right fit for you and your family and your business long term. We lay those out in our advisor interview questionnaire. We've got a list of probably 30 or so sample questions just to get that discussion going, so that people feel empowered and knowing what to ask. So yeah, when you go into that interview, know that they already meet your minimum standards and have a list of questions prepared for them. That first meeting is you as a client interviewing the advisor, not hearing their sales approach.
What type of questions should you ask?
Yeah. So we think that it's important not to just, you don't have to understand what a investment process, or what the investment kind of philosophy should be. You don't have to know what it means to have a standard of care approach, but you should be able to ask questions to identify, do they have discipline in their process? Do they value wisdom? Some of the questions that we would suggest are asking about specializations within their team. Ask, if their advisors have different areas of specialty, who should I speak with on your team if you're not available? Also, I would say it's a red flag if you walk in and you're only meeting with one person. The team that you're meeting with should greet you by name. You should see multiple people before you ever see the advisor, and that advisor should probably not be in that meeting alone. When someone calls and sets an appointment with our team, they're going to interact with 3 or 4 different team members, also probably have a pre-meeting call with our onboarding specialist just to see who's likely going to be the best fit from a relationship standpoint as a primary contact with our team. So there's a lot that should probably go into that even before you walk in the door, and you'll see that very visible. Yeah. And we've got a list of questions as a follow-up resource to our book. We have the hiring guide that lists all of those out that we think are great starting points.
So Drew, if I've done my research, done the due diligence, come through and kind of use your checklist to find the right person, am I finding the top 2 or 3 and interviewing them all and then comparing them? Or is it best to find the one that I really think is a fit and go in there just for one to make sure they're a good fit? And if they're not, then go try to find, a second or third option.
Yeah, that's a good question, Ty. There's no downside in talking to a couple of different people. Even if you feel good about the first conversation that you have, and they meet the criteria, they check all the boxes, there's no harm in having 2 or 3 interviews. Most people don't. If they feel good about how a meeting went and they, feel like it's an honest person that they connected with, they're probably not even doing a lot of research on what their designations may be or what their processes look like at all. And they're going ahead and making that decision. Again, that's why we want people to go through the process before they're ready, so that they can take some time to do it thoughtfully. There's little downside in talking to 2 or 3 people. Now, if they do check all the boxes, they do answer the questions the way that you're comfortable with how they've articulated their process, we think that there's a more of a subjective part of that how they make you feel. Do you connect with them? Are these people that you can see, you trusting to make major life decisions down the road? One of the reasons why we wrote the book, and we hadn't really got to that as much as why we think it's appropriate, is we think people should expect more from our industry. And a relationship with the wealth management team can be so much more than just investments and retirement planning. So, connecting with a person and having a strong basis for your relationship is is absolutely important. It doesn't mean that they have to be somebody that's right up the street or even in your own town. You and I are having a private conversation here across the country. It doesn't have to be face to face necessarily, and you don't have to have that to have a connection. It helps, but yeah. So back your original question is interview a few people.
Makes sense. And when you're doing this and trying to figure it out, who is the best person? Like in my space of business finance, there's like different stages business owners need money. They need it like it's a startup. And on the other end, they need SBA loans. Usually the person offers SBA loans isn't the one doing startup capital. So I guess what I'm saying is in the financial space with advisors, are you looking for somebody that can kind of be with you through the rest of the stages of your life? Or are there just kind of advisors that are different fits where you're going to probably need to change to another advisor in a different stage of your life?
Yeah, that happens all the time. And we would say that happens when people have gone through that process without setting minimum standards and knowing what they were going to be able to find or really pursue that can help them over the long term. A team, we believe should be built that is multi-generational. So you have, a contingency plan and a succession plan for if that primary relationship manager that you have connected with is not available, changes careers, retires, something happens to them, God forbid, that the team is going to continue and be able to serve you. So you're looking for a multi-generation group of specialists that can handle your needs over the course of your next 10, 20, 30 years. Exactly what you're saying is when people look for an advisor is when, hey, something new has happened. Now I need new advice and I'm going to pursue a different relationship. That may be the sale of a business, the purchase of a business, or some other, almost certainly some kind of major life event. Almost, I've been in our industry for 17 years. Very few times do you see somebody that's so displeased with purely investment performance that they go seek a new relationship. Most people get that markets go up and down and you can't really help that as long as they're appropriately invested. Now, there are some things that go on there where people are in more speculative type things that go bad and they leave an advisor, but generally not the case.
So Drew, great stuff. And I know we just kind of scratched the surface of what's in your book. So where can everybody go to talk more to you and your firm about potentially you being the fit for them on the advisor side? And where can everybody go to grab your book?
Sure. Yeah. So we're the Perry Richey Wealth Management Group. We work with Baird Private Wealth. Our website's theperryricheygroup.com, but you can get to there and find more information about our book at findingyourfinancialadvisor.com. It's also available for sale on Amazon. So just finding your financial advisor, it'll pull right up. And on our website, we've got access to many more resources, including the hiring guide, our quarterly newsletter, as well as links to other articles and our publications that are out there.
Now, you said it's the perryricheygroup.com.
That's right.
Okay, perfect. All right, Drew, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you joining us today. Really good stuff. And findingyourfinancialadvisor.com is the best place to go to find the book.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Ty. We really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. All right. So listen, if you're watching and listening to this is probably one of the most important things you're really going to deal with in your life. The reality is how you deal with the money that you earn, how you deal with your wealth determines your quality of life as you get older. And that's the thing is we all run these businesses hoping to exit, make, a lot of money, et cetera. But then so many entrepreneurs make the mistake of not properly getting an advocate, an advisor early in the process and saving money throughout that as a backup plan. Like there's no downside to being able to have an advisor that's handling your money while you're building your business. And at the same time, you've got that if the business doesn't exit at the level that you think. And if it does, well, then you got somebody that's going to help you and you've already got that relationship built before your back is against the wall. It's interesting because as Drew said, one of the biggest mistakes that is made when I ask that question is, look, people are making the decision under duress because they need it and they need it now, and they feel pressured, and that leads them to make bad decisions. You've been there, I've been there, right? When you're pressured, you just don't tend to make as good of decisions. That's why you need to be preemptive on this. You need to go in, you need to make sure that you grab Drew's book and then understand and follow the steps to be able to research to find the best advisor for you. If you want to talk more, make sure you go to the perryricheygroup.com. That's the perryrichey.group.com. And Drew, is that Perry Richey? Is it the word THE and then Perry PERRY and then Richey RICHEY group.com?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so it's the perryricheygroup.com, the word the THE, the word Perry PERRY, the word Richey RICHEY group.com. And you could talk more to Drew and his team about maybe them fitting that bill for you. Maybe they're the best advisor to be able to satisfy your needs. And then to learn more about finding the best advisor and the steps to take and being able to access Drew's book, make sure you go to findingyourfinancialadvisor.com. That's findingyourfinancialadvisor.com. Of course, I'm going to leave these resources in the show resources page. So thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Make sure you visit the perryricheygroup.com and also make sure you grab the book at findingyourfinancialadvisor.com as well. Take care.